Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to this Saturday's edition of Super Conscious Outlet, featured on Blog Talk Radio, Universal Radio 2. We are excited to have as our media spokesperson, God King Grasshopper. He is known in the community as an African-centered motivational teacher and a service provider that inspires the youth to understand African awareness in his local community. He currently supports and facilitates events for the organizations of the Ka Men's Society, the House of Amun-Ra, and Sma Tawi. He sits alongside as co-host with the divine goddess Koshana Kweli Jones. Currently, she facilitates the learning environment as an expert metaphysician who teaches on the principles of African spiritual science. Queen Goddess Koshana is the founder of numerous organizations, the Voice of Mayat, and Global African Awakening, which can be found on Facebook. Her sole purpose in life is to motivate and awaken her people. Please give a special attention to our co-host, God King Grasshopper, and our featured host, Goddess Kweli Koshana Jones.
Brothers and sisters, take out your papers and pens. Y'all know when Koshana Kweli hits the mic, y'all are in for a lesson. You may want to take notes from the words that I quote, taking y'all to multifaceted dimensions higher than dope. See, I am Sister Revolutionary. I am no chameleon Negro who turns black only during February. I am a revolutionary, so don't paint me as no saintsy, because I am revolutionary from the kinky roots of my dreads to the sole of my feet. And don't mistake me and think that my claim to fame and glory are my dreads and my dashikis. You can't compare me or label me as Afrocentric or militant. I am a revolutionary, a visionary, seeing through all facades. I'm a nigga turned God, a political alchemist. When I throw up my black fist, I mean this. I love my African consciousness, and I will spread it like a disease and pray that it's contagious. So when y'all address Kweli, please respect me and know that I'll do what you're afraid to do, and I'll be who you refuse to be, a revolutionary. And for all your questions, the fact is, I should never have to defend blackness where black lives. Class dismissed. Peace, family. Welcome to another Saturday with the Super Conscious Outlet. I am your host, Koshana Kweli, and I am joined today by my amazing co-host, God King Grasshopper. Grasshopper, are you with us?
Yes, I am present, and I am definitely looking forward to this very important dialogue, revolutionaries from the past, present, and the future. So let's get into it.
Ashe. Before we start, let's give a shout-out to all of our sponsors.
Indeed. Thank you, Goddess Koshana Kweli. Our sponsors, first up, is Global African Awakening, which can be found on Facebook.com. It cultivates an environment that is positive for those going through an awakening. If you want more information, simply inbox myself, Grasshopper, or Koshana by using the Facebook outlet. Blacks Be Like also can be found on Facebook.com/Blacks Be Like 1. Also check out my Sistars Keeper, which also can be found on the Facebook.com/My Sistars. Sistars is spelled Sistars, Keeper. We have Success Goddess Money. She's an expert with credit repair, financial consultations, and real estate. You can Facebook her at Success Goddess Money. That is success. SUCCESS space Goddess GODIS space Money MONEY. We also have fitness trainer and master Devon Allen. He has a program called Reshape the People's Workout and Meal Plan. You can get with him at 323, that is the area code, 438-0154, or you can simply email him at that is the letter D, things1236 at AOL.com. Thank you for allowing me to share the sponsors and turn the program back over to the goddess, Koshana Quayle.
Thank you, Brother God. Tonight is going to be a profound night. The topic is revolutionary, past, present, and future. So why don't you tell us a little bit about our guest, Brother Guy Grasshop?
Indeed, Sister Koshana Quayle. We have some very honorable guests here today to touch on a very term that's been around for a long time, but has different meanings, different connotations, and even different examples, depending upon who you're asking. But today we have two, once again, honorable guests. One is an elder, one is a middle age, and they're going to intrigue us with some honest discourse on what is the true essential and essence of what it truly means to be a revolutionary. The first person I'd like to introduce is no stranger to Superconscious Outlet. He is a profound brother, a businessman. He has T-shirts that represents an RBG mentality. He is following the ideology, the philosophies, and the teachings of the Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey. And he is definitely committed to help to uplift the minds of his people, those who are willing and receptive to receive truth from a revolutionary perspective. He has a calm spirit, and he is definitely on the front lines of the good fight, once again representing the RBG. Not just red, black, and green, but he's also representing the Black God. So I want to introduce to Superconscious Outlet, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, elders and eldresses, the one and only comrade, Mind Over Matter. Welcome to Superconscious Outlet. Are you with us? Brother Mind Over Matter, are you with us?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Brother Grasshop. Peace. How you doing?
Oh, we well. We blacknificent.
Right.
All right. The next guest I'm going to introduce is definitely near and dear to me. He is a Jagna, a teacher, an uncle of mine. You know, when we talk about revolutionaries, you know, you hear the names of Apprentice Bunchy Carter. You hear the names of Che Guevara and Fidel Castro, honorable names who need an applause. But you also have living heroes and living revolutionaries and living libraries right before us here on this earth plane, breathing. And this man right here, who is definitely a genuine revolutionary, who is upholding black revolution with, once again, impeccable integrity and strong and sound character. He was a part of the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee that was that was ran at that particular moment by the great H. Rap Brown, Jamil Alameen, and Soldier Carmichael, a.k.a. Kwame Ture. May he rest in spirit. This gentleman joined that organization in 1968, and once he did all he could do with that organization, he moved on to the original Black Panther Party in 1969 after the legendary 41st Central confrontation by the original Black Panther Party. After he done all he could with the original Black Panther Party, Southern California chapter, that is, him along with his brother established an organization, revolutionary organization that was entitled the Jonathan Jackson Educational Cadre, that was based out of the Avalon Garden Proud Jacks. This man is a light when there's darkness, because he inspires the likes of myself and so many others, not just grow up to be a basketball player, not just grow up to be an actor, nothing wrong with them, but to grow up to be a revolutionary. And it warms my heart, and I'm honored to have this legend, this uncle, this friend, this righteous man, the one and only Admiral Captain Uncle Harold Wilson, a.k.a. Bubba. Are you with us?
Yes, sir. Humbly,
yes, sir.
Thank you.
Not a problem.
Greetings, comrade, Mind Over Matter.
Greetings, comrade Harold.
Grasshopper, Sergeant Grasshopper, as I like to call him.
You
very much.
Yes,
welcome, everybody.
Yes, indeed. All right, brothers. I'm going to ask you, we're going to start the show off with a very basic question. I'm going to pose it to both of you guys. Mind over matter, you can take it over first. What does being a revolutionary mean and represent to you? You got it, mind over matter.
Well, I first became aware of the word while I was in prison, and you hear some of the greats like Che Guevara and a few other people that were non-black at first, because you get on this communist thing. But then when I got introduced to the brother George Jackson and his struggle, that set my whole thinking world on fire. And to me, the epitome of a revolutionary is the brother George Jackson, because number one, he entered prison as an ignorant youth, and he seen the conditions up in prison, and he made a conscious vow to he's not going to submit. One of George Jackson's best lines that I love, he said, "You will never count me among the broken men," and that's a profound statement, because the brother was in the pits, he was in the belly of the beast at that time, and he rose above that, and he changed people. I think a brother has to be, just very strong for the Black Panther Party on the streets to try to, contact him in prison and recruit him to be a part of their organization. That's how revolutionary he was. That was a strong brother, and he's the epitome to me.
Ashe, that's wonderful. And we're going to talk about George Jackson a little bit later on, probably second half hour. We're going to touch on Black August, too. Uncle Harold Wilson, the same question. What does being a revolutionary mean and represent to you? You got the floor.
Revolutionary means that, are we talking about just fighting white supremacy? If so, let's look at the so-called U.S. Revolution of 1775 to 1783. Now, they called that a revolution, but actually it was a continuation of white supremacy in Euro-America. Revolution to me means a complete radical change of not only white supremacy's existence, but their brain. I call their brain capitalism. I call their extremities or their limbs imperialism, colonialism, and neocolonialism. So, what do we replace it with? Well, like Fred Hampton said, we replace it with socialism, scientific socialism. A lot of people get hung up with the word socialism. They think that Marx and Lenin were the ones that created the word socialism. We can look as far back as communalism in the eastern structures of African people and the communal structures of African people. In fact, George Jackson talked about in Blood in My Eyes the fact that we've been practicing communalism way before socialism was looked upon by Marx and Lenin. By the way, I don't have any problems with them. They just may have added a couple of lines. Strike that. They may have added some things to it. So I don't have any problems with the word socialism.
You there?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Hello?
Yeah, go ahead. You got it.
Okay, I'm sorry. That was interrupted. All right, now, what produces revolutionaries? I don't think we just pop up and say that we want to be revolutionaries. I think that conditions produce revolutionaries and revolution and liberation struggles. I believe that poverty, I believe that hunger, I believe that inadequate or no shelter, medical conditions, educational conditions produce revolution. Police terror produces revolution. And what I call petty racism in terms of the scheme of things of the rulers, which is white supremacy. Petty racism to me are the poor white folks or the alleged poor white folks that run around in hoods and sheets. And we think that they're the real enemies. Though they are our enemies, I don't see them as the primary enemy. I see that the capitalist rulers, the banks, the economic system of capitalism, the corporations of capitalism, I see them as the overall enemy of the black liberation struggle or African people all around the world. Certainly, slavery through capitalism built Europe and the Euro United States. So I feel that those components are definitely a part of revolution when we say the word revolution. I think that Malcolm understood that clear when he said, "Find me a capitalist, and I'll find you. You'll find a bloodsucker." See, Paul Robeson attacked capitalism, and again, like Fred Hampton used to say, we fight capitalism with socialism. So, yes, that's what revolutionaries of the past how we used to look at that, and maybe the present in some quarters.
Awesome, Uncle Harold. Both of y'all, very profound questions. Because I heard your speech that you gave at the Kwame Ture event this year, and you said something that really inspired us to have this, I guess, the title of this topic today. You came up there and said, you don't want to just reminisce on the past, but we also don't want to forget about the past of that special generation of the 60s, the revolutionary movement. But the key that you talked about is that you want to bring the past to the present so that we can have a productive and progressive future. So it's like dealing with the Yoruba tradition, it's Sankofa. Going back to the past, gathering the essence, the foundation, bringing them to the present, and establishing your own legacy, your own righteous doing, and having a constructive and prosperous future. So both of you guys definitely made some very good points. Goddess Quayle, Koshana, did you want to add to this? Add us a question?
First, let me welcome both of you guys. I'm so appreciative of you guys joining us this evening for the show. What I wanted to ask you guys, and I'm gonna ask Baba Harold Welting, and then Mind Over Matter. At what age did you join the revolution, and when did you know that this was in your being, that you wanted to be a revolutionary?
I was 16 years old, about a year after the 1965 Watts Rebellion, of which I didn't participate in, but I experienced. I experienced the National Guard riding around with 50 caliber machine guns in our neighborhood, as well as the Los Angeles Police Department and the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department riding around military-wise with shotguns 4 deep sticking out the windows. And we had a dusk to dawn curfew. And I was like, wait, this is not Leave It to Beaver anymore, or
right.
Other programs we used to watch. So I was about 16 years old.
Wow.
Yes.
That's heavy. I mean, my generation, I don't think we've ever experienced, we had the Rodney King riots, but we never really, I was still a kid then, but I don't think we've ever experienced seeing the National Guard in our neighborhoods or anything of that nature. Brother God, Mind Over Matter, I want to pose the same question to you. At what age did you realize that you wanted to be a part of the revolution?
I became aware of it at age 19. I went to prison right after the Rodney King riots. I was 19 years old, and I was at Calipatria State Prison, and once I seen the conditions in prison, because as a youth, I always thought that you do a crime, you go to prison, you're in there with the thieves and the rapists and, whoever else, but then when you find out that there's actually people in prison who are innocent, and then people who are in there for other means, illiteracy, you meet grown men who couldn't read, that forced me into it, because I wanted to vow to not leave prison as ignorant as I had came. So mine was at 19 years old.
Wow. You guys both came into the movement at a very young age. And did you guys have any particular people or individuals that inspired that in you?
Let the Brother Harold go first.
Yes, sir. No doubt. Dan H. Rap Brown, Jamil Alameen, and Stokely Carmichael. Kwame Ture. The summer of '67 was like the fuse for me and my comrades in the Avalon Garden projects to see those brothers get on the communication line and say, if America don't come around, we're going to burn it down. And the articulation and the bravery and the foresight of these brothers just blew us away. And at that point, it was when I went back to school that fall. You know, you write position papers, what do you want to be? At that time, I had very little understanding of revolution. I wanted to be a militant, you know, and I read that to the class. I remember the white teacher said, well, you can't make any money being a militant. I said, I know. We intend to burn America down. So at that point, the summer of '67 was the primer for me. And let me add that the summer of '67 was the closest, I think, that Africans in this country came to large-scale insurrection, because there were rebellions in every major city
Wow.
in the United States except for Los Angeles.
Wow. And what triggered the rebellion?
Most times it was police brutality or police terror, some action going down in the city where the police assassinated or murdered black people. I remember Detroit in particular. The furiousness of that revolt was so such that they called in the Air National Guard, you know, to try to contain the righteous, just rebellion of the people of Detroit. And then also Newark, I believe they brought in federal troops to try to contain that rebellion. But as I said, there were rebellions all over the country. And it's like nothing like you'll see today at this point. Not saying that it won't happen. The jury is still out. But those two individuals, Kwame Ture and Jamil Al-Amin, they primed me and sparked us, and it was uphill after that.
Wow. It must have been some serious times right then. Quickly, mind over matter. You also, did any particular person or event spark the desire for you to become a revolutionary?
There's countless brothers that I met in prison that I have great respect for. You know how we talk today about you know, the gang members and all that they represent and all the negativity, but actually it was gang members who handed me the books that I needed to read as soon as I got to prison. One of the first books that I read when I entered prison was Blood in My Eye by George Jackson, and it was a blood out of Pasadena who gave me that book, a hardcore gang member. Every other word out of his mouth was blood, but they were still the residue of those brothers who were still holding on to the old times up in there of teaching the youngsters and, you know, and schooling them. Well, I just wanted to drop real quick on you. You made a reference to the ages, how we were young. I know later on the show, Grasshopper, we're going to get to it, but the brother George Jackson's brother, Jonathan Jackson, he started out he was in his like mid-teens, already dealing with weaponry and learning the philosophies and everything. So we know we actually late. And far as today in 2014, we extremely late.
Right. I agree with that.
Yes.
You still there?
Hello?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
All right, yeah, cool. My apologies. Yeah, one thing on what you were saying is that they were very young. They had a young ambition. Uncle Harold, 16. You know, Huey P. Newton, I think he got started around 18. You know, Jonathan Jackson, the man-child, extremely young. You know, they had a passion. They may not have had, to an extent, now I use extent very loosely, the wisdom of experience, but they had the passion and the burning desire. They seen the injustices that their people, that the oppressed people was faced with, and as Uncle Harold wasn't expounded on earlier, that the conditions made those become a revolutionary, because revolution in a practical term represents change, and we're here to change the status quo, not to go along with it. I want to also expound on comments you brothers made and posed it to a question, tied into a question. In the opening statement, Brother Mono Matter, you said when you got to prison, you was under the impression of revolutionaries being with like Che Guevara and, Marx and Lenin,
Yes.
and even Uncle Harold Wilson. I do believe a lot of the Black Panther, the original Black Panther Party, looked up to Mao Zedong, you know what I mean? But I want to also flip that a little bit because a lot of the time it seems like we get our revolutionary ideas from non-African, non-Black revolutionaries.
Right.
But if we really pay very close attention, let's look at Che Guevara, Fidel Castro, and Brother Elder Harold Weldon, I'm pretty sure you can expound on this. They studied Emile Carl Cabral, one of the greatest revolutionaries to ever walk the face of this earth, and Ho Chi Minh studied the first honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey. So it's like I'm still under contention that we have the origins of not just livelihood or humanity, but also when it comes to revolutionary culture. So Uncle Harold Walton, and maybe it might not matter. You can expound on the second question. Uncle Harold Walton, is it true that Fidel Castro and Che Guevara, and correct me if I'm wrong, studied under the great Emile Carl Cabral and got a lot of revolutionary ideas and philosophies from him, the great man, and you can expound on Emile Carl Cabral?
In the early 1960s, the Cubans had what was called the Tricontinental in Cuba. Revolutionaries from all over the globe were in Cuba for a conference on how to improve, one, on solidarity between the different fighting revolutionary organizations, two, strategy and tactics on revolution and liberations in Africa, so-called Latin America, and Asia. And one of the, if not most anticipated speaker at the Tricontinental was Emile Carl Cabral. Revolutionaries from Vietnam, revolutionaries from China, revolutionaries from all over the world wanted to hear Emile Carl expound on armed struggle and revolution in Guinea-Bissau. And to read that, not just wanting, there's nothing wrong with reading and studying. To read that and study that was so inspiring for us later on, and we'll get to that, like you said, Grasshopper, later. But to hear that and read that Emile Carl Cabral was looked upon by revolutionaries all over the world, successful revolutionaries, many of them, was so inspiring for us that it was something to behold. And let me say this real quick. I'm very inspired to hear Brother Mind Over Matter talk about George being studied in I don't want to say the penitentiary, behind the walls, behind enemy lines, to know that George is still alive in the concentration camps of California. That's very inspiring for me to hear, because like you said, man, George Jackson and Jonathan P. Jackson was something to behold. I didn't know George physically, but I met Jonathan maybe 4 or 5 times. And you got to understand, and we talk about this, Grasshopper, it wasn't like, oh, there goes Jonathan Jackson, he's going to go in the courtroom and do a number on the imperialists, on the oppressor, on the unjust. It was, he was a low-key brother. The only reason I think he caught my attention immediately because he had that brown hair. He had brown hair, and so I'm like, okay. And when I met him in early 1970, I had never heard of George Jackson, and I'll talk about that later. But I hope I'm not all over the map on this. But
actually, you know what? We can go right into it though, because no need to prolong it. It's Black August, you know what I mean, and because we don't know, the callers might come in, and we might talk about some other things. So we can get right on to George and Jonathan Jackson, who are the real preludes of what Black August truly is. So let's get it. Let's go into it. Y'all can expound. The floor is y'all. Jonathan, George, you can fire pose questions. Were you done, Uncle Harold Walton? I don't want to cut you off.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Mind don't matter. I don't know if you got it. I know you had lists of the major accomplishments that went on the month of Black August? If you have it on you, if you have it within view, could you read that for us? Is that possible?
Oh, definitely. I can break it down to you. The meaning of Black August. The concept of Black August developed inside the California prisons under the leadership of men like George Jackson, W.L. Nolan, and Jeffrey Katari, all murdered in California prisons. The tradition was established during the 1970s in the California prison system by men and women of the New African Liberation Movement as a means of acknowledging and studying the legacy of African resistance in the Americas and honoring fallen freedom fighters like George Jackson, Jonathan Jackson, Katari Golden, James McLean, Williams Christmas, and Fred Hampton. Black August was a response to the need of African prisoners to form a principled and effective political unity to combat the racism and genocide against African people behind the walls. So the listeners can understand that being that the Black Panthers was the most profound on the streets, it had to have been an organization of brothers in the system. And that's what those brothers were. They was part of the New African Liberation Movement, who the Black Panther Party, to an extent, looked up to, because anyone who's already in the belly of the beast fighting that hard, you have to give them respect, because they don't have the luxury of taking a day off or being detoured. They're under the gun all day, every day. As far as the history, real quick, August 1619, arrival of the first African slaves in 13 colonies. August 21st, 1791, Haiti slave uprising for independence. August 30th, 1800s, Gabriel Prosser's slave revolt discovered. August 21st, 1831, Nat Turner slave rebellion. August of 1850, Underground Railroad. August 17th, 1887, birth of Marcus Mosiah Garvey. August 24th, 1943, birth of Russell Maroon Schultz. August 30th, 1948, birth of Fred Hampton. August 8th, 1949, birth of Dr. Mutulu Shakur. August of 1963, that was the March on Washington. August of 1965 was the Watts Rebellion. August 25th of 1967, the FBI circulates internal order to disrupt black liberation groups. August 7th, 1970, the Courthouse Slave Rebellion, Jonathan Jackson. August 18th, 1971, capital of Republic of New Africa attacked by FBI and the police. August 21st, 1971, the assassination of Brother George Lester Jackson. August 28th, 1971, Jalil Muttakim and Noah Washington captured. August 8th, 1978, police raid on the move. And August 17th, 1995, Mumia scheduled for execution. They were stopped by resistance. That's just a small history of things that happened in Black August.
I say, thank you. That was wonderful. And it seemed like that's another Black History Month. And one of the things I was taught, because I talked with you, Mono Matter, and Uncle Harold know my other Jagna, Kumasi, was a close confidant of George Jackson. He was a dad with him, and he wanted to school me to Black August, all the essentials of what Black August is as it pertains to having a revolutionary mindset. And one thing I learned from him, one thing he taught, and Harold Wilson, you can definitely expound on this, is that Black August, the month of Black August, should not just be relegated to the month of Black August. What I mean by that, family, is when they was inside, and I'm pretty sure Mondo Matter know about this, when they was inside, my trainer, he said after what Mondo Matter read about the three individuals, and along with William Christmas and those others who did that daring move, they want to do something to honor their legacy. Like Mondo Matter is doing, like a lot of us youngsters are doing, is carrying on the tradition of George Jackson, not just George Jackson, but all those unknown heroes who really put in the work on the front lines, even behind enemy lines. He taught me that when they was inside, they was always studying. When they was inside, they was always exercising, had a yard mentality. And when the month of August came, they intensified it even more. You know what I mean? They would fast from sun up to sundown, kind of like a Ramadan fast. Some wouldn't even eat for the whole month. How they do that, I don't know. they would intensify their studying. Instead of reading like 6 hours a day, they would go 8 hours a day. Everything was intensified because they're doing it not just for themselves, but for the movement and the spirit of those, not fallen, but those rising revolutionary soldiers of spirit. And that's what he trained me on, you know. Black August is not to be where outside of you, not to be relegated to the month of August. You can do Black August all year round, and when the month of August come around, you just intensify it more and get more stronger, and it strengthens your discipline. Uncle Harold, I know you're very astute with the Black August, and I know you help out with the Black August of Los Angeles. Can you give us some pearls of insight of what Black August means to you, and what does it represent to you? Uncle Harold, welcome.
It's a month of sacrifice, supreme sacrifice, as Brother Mind Over Matter talked about. A lot of revolutionaries, liberation fighters, freedom fighters lost their lives, gave their lives for our people. And they weren't out there just talking. They were out there working, putting in the work, putting in the unity of theory, practice. And, you know, to speak of George Jackson, to speak of Jonathan Jackson, to speak of revolutionaries, period, the type of commitment that they have to the struggle of African people is something to behold, past and present. So it's a month of sacrifice, a year of sacrifice, a year to year of sacrifice. And again, like I said, to hear Brother Mind Over Matter talk about George and Jonathan, and William, you talk about William Christmas, is inspiring, because that's what our struggle is about. Our struggle is to continue the struggle, to continue to educate, to continue to organize, and to continue to agitate, to continue to make our people aware that there was more to life than Jerry Springer, you see, and sports. So it's a month of sacrifice, fast, and that's what we've been going through, African people, for 400, 500, 600 years, and so it's a continuation of that. You see, I just wanted to say this one more thing about revolution.
Yes, sir.
I look at revolutionaries who led successful armed struggle revolutions in Africa. Amilcar Cabral, he led a successful armed struggle in Guinea-Bissau, a socialist revolution where they not only kick the Portuguese out of Guinea-Bissau, though Amilcar was assassinated a year before they won their revolution. Patrice Lumumba, who was about eradicating not only white supremacy, but the system of capitalism, imperialism, and neocolonial. Neocolonialism is colonialism by remote control. It's white supremacy by remote control. Samora Machel of Mozambique, Thomas Sankara, these soldiers, these revolutionaries, these great people, they were killed, they were assassinated, they were considered a threat. They not only talked about and organized against white supremacy, they were talking about fighting white supremacy at its brain, capitalism, at its limbs, socialism, at its beaten hands, imperialism. So, you know, we have to recognize that there's a great price. There's a great price when a revolutionary steps out and says, not only, and Fred Hampton, you know, and I can go on and on, not only are we attacking white supremacy, but we're attacking your brain and we're attacking your limbs, because that's how you exist. So, you know, a lot of times I hear this, I hate white. I went through that when I was 16. I hate white folks. You know, I can't stand crackers, you know, the devil. You know, that was all right for me. I'm speaking for me. That was a part of my progression, of my growth. When then I started reading about the struggle of Cuba, how Che went to the Congos in solidarity, put his life on the line with the revolutionaries in the Congo. Not only did he go him by himself, he took great generals who still live, African generals who live in Cuba, Victor Drecke and Juan Almeida. They're generals now in the Cuban army. And, to just condemn everything and everybody because they don't look like... look at Van Nguyen Giap. He died, I think, about 6 months ago. He led 2 successful armed struggles. He kicked the French out of Vietnam, and he kicked the United States out of Vietnam. To say, well, I don't want to study him. I don't want to study him because he's not us. Well, I'm going to study him because he's successful. I'm going to study revolutionaries because they're successful. And finally, I just want to say this real quick. We have to develop that solidarity based on principle, based on understanding that we can be pragmatic. If you look at those revolutions in those African countries, some of them that I mentioned, a lot of those weapons that you see came from Russia. They came from China. Those Stalin batteries that the Angolans used in the revolution to drive the South Africans out of their country, they were most successful with their Stalin battery. Those were rockets. You see those multiple rockets going out. They had AK-47s. In some cases, they had Russian tanks, and they had RPGs made in Russia. I know one of my comrades, rest in spirit, his name was Carl. He was in the JJEC, the Jonathan Jackson Educational Cadre. He went to China in early 1970, and he said he woke up one night, and he heard some brothers marching in from training. And these brothers were from Zimbabwe and Mozambique in China training for guerrilla warfare. So when we just blanketly just condemn anything that don't look like us, and I'm not saying be led by the nose, I'm saying we have to be pragmatic, we have to be wise, and we have to study in addition to putting in the work.
I agree with that 100%.
Man, I do too. I definitely do.
Yeah, I think that was right and exact, right on the point. I have a question. We're coming close to our break in the next 12 minutes, but before we go, I want to ask you both, because to me I've seen a lot of different things in our generation comparing to what you, Uncle Harold Welton, experienced in your generation, and I see what we're doing now as far as the buck being passed down to us as revolutionaries and taking on and stepping up to the plate. I have a question. Do you guys think the revolution has become a fad, something that we think is cool, that we're romanticizing about, that we kind of becoming more Hollywood with it, watching it on TV, looking up to the Black Panthers, but really not ready to take on the same struggles that they experience? What do you think about what the revolution has become today? Uncle Harold, you can go, and then Mind Over Matter. Actually, Mind Over Matter, you go first. I want to hear what you think. What do you think about the revolution today? Is this becoming a fad? Is this something that we can just throw on the colors red, black, and green, or a beret, and get on Facebook or whatever, and really not put in, like Uncle Harold Welton said, theory and practice? Are we actually practicing our theories? Are we out feeding the people? Are we willing to police our own communities? What do you think is happening with the revolution today?
I think there are sincere individuals who want to push the revolution and push the struggle, and then also on the other hand, you're going to have those who ideally want to push it but don't want to get physical. And I think that's in anything. That's just like with music. You have true artists in the music industry, and then you have these overnight, bubblegum singers. So I think in any element you're going to have the real, and then you're going to have the people who's the carbon copy. But as far as with us, I think that we have a slight advantage over the elders in the Black Panther Party, is that we have all this technology right now. We have instant. Right now I have access to Koshana, Grasshop, and the Brother Harold instantly with a picture, a message, audio, so many different things. Those brothers back in those days, they were going with the newspaper because you had to read, and a lot of us we don't read as much as we should. I know I don't. I've definitely regress down from my square from when I first got out, because like the brother was saying earlier, the brother Harold was saying earlier about not being turned off by certain material because it's not black. I definitely I used to watch Fox News in prison when people wouldn't watch it. Oh, that's racist. That's racist. What I learned up off of Fox News was when the host of the show, what's his name? Bill something. What's his name?
Bill O'Reilly.
Yeah, Bill O'Reilly. When he used, my favorite part of his show was when he did the word of the day, because he would come out with a new word and then you learn the definition. I used to love that because that's reminiscent of what Tookie Williams was doing on his tier with all the brothers. You had to learn 3 words a day, and then you had to use them in a sentence. And if you're on a whole row with people, that's a whole bunch of words you're going to learn in one day. So I definitely understand the mathematics and the teachings up in that. But in reference to your question, yeah, definitely, you got the real, you have the fake, but I think the clock is ticking on ours because at least our generation before us, they were able to hand down things to us that was pretty much solid. Us that came behind that and the ones that's underneath us, man, I mean, let's be honest, what are we going to leave to them? I just seen a video today of the burning chip challenge where you light a potato chip on fire and stick it in your mouth real quick. So we got work to do. We got work because we can't sit back and say, oh, back in our time, the generation they're gonna laugh like that. Nah, they're gonna say, no, in y'all time, y'all knew what we was doing and y'all laughed at it and y'all liked and shared our images on Facebook. That's what y'all did for us.
Right.
See?
Uncle Harold, what do you think? What is coming? What is becoming of the revolution today? I know that you are still affiliated with several different organizations, and you are still close and in contact with young Jagnees that you're teaching and working with. What do you see for what we're doing today as far as our behavior? We're who banging on Facebook. Are we really representing the Jonathans and the Huey P. Newtons? Are we really following in their footsteps, or are we making a mockery of it?
Well, I agree with Mind Over Matter. I see a lot of people and organizations making positive, creative moves, and I agree with Mind Over Matter. Just think if the Black Panther Party would have had Facebook or email, all the electronic, quick movement of information. Just think of how effective it would have been if Huey Newton, Bobby Seals, and little Bobby Hutton and the rest of the brothers and comrades that went into the California State Senate building were able to explain that move immediately, say on Facebook or email or blog radio. I believe that, right now, anybody young, almost anybody young, who are saying something about our struggle is positive to me. There was a period, I would say, between the late 70s and maybe the mid-80s. People weren't talking about the Black Panther Party. People weren't talking about Malcolm X. You ever heard of the Black Panther Party? No. You ever heard of Malcolm? No. It wasn't until Spike Lee's movie Malcolm X came out and the movie Panther came out. However negative people may have thought about Panther, Panther put the Black Panther Party on the map.
Right.
Max put that out there. So I think that young folks, young people, young comrades, revolutionaries, I see them doing a lot of things. I see Grasshopper now on Mind Over Matter. You, Quayle. I see young brothers out of Detroit, like the young brother out of Detroit, Seth Bunchy, Shakur, putting in a whole lot of good work. I see the All-African People's Revolutionary Party putting out good work. So I think sometimes it can get silly and Jerry Springish, in terms of the way people comment and speak to each other. But I think, like Malcolm, and I'm paraphrasing, like Malcolm once said, we were once there, so we can't expect people to be oh yeah, well this is the way we're gonna fight it, and this is how we're gonna do it, etc., so forth and so on. I think it's a lot of positive work and things being done out.
Indeed, I say. We're about to go on break, but I want to pose a question that I would like for you, brother, to think about, and once we come back from break, y'all can expound on it. Y'all pretty much touched on it a little bit, but I asked a question last week. We had a great metaphysician named Nazir Ra last week, and I posed him a question. Oh, I actually posed my queen, Quayle, and Kyria knows the question. How do you feel about certain metaphysicians not having like a narcissistic attitude towards the RBG revolutionary movement, but kind of like having somewhat of a superiority knowledge complex towards the RBG movement? And I want to ask you guys a question, but I want to flip it. You know what I mean? Because I'll be hearing some RBG movements and those who are in the revolutionary try to laugh at some of the spiritual customs and practices of us metaphysicians. I'm down both sides, just to let you know that. And I would like you to expound on that because I don't, like I said last week, I don't think it's fair for certain metaphysicians at all to look down upon certain RBG or revolutionary movements for doing demonstrations, boycotts, or putting that footwork. And I also, on the flip side, I don't think it's too fair for certain revolutionaries to really, like, just because they might not understand something, to ostracize it or to make a mockery of it, because I am truly down with unity, and I truly am convinced that we need both the spiritual, the meta aspect, along with the practicalities of the RBG or revolutionary movement. So hold that into your mental Rolodex. We're going to go on break. When we come back, we can get deep into that and a host of other things. People who's listening, please call in. You know the number, 787-8180. Press number 1, get you on cue, and come talk to the Honorable Elder Harold Wilson and talk to the Honorable Comrade Mind Over Matter, or the Honorable Quayle Koshana, and you can talk to myself. So the second hour, we want to hear from you, and we're going to get into this. So we got something good for you in this break. We got Tupac, Pass the Power. Take it away.
Welcome back, family, to the Super Conscious Outlet. Today we are discussing revolutionaries, past, present, and future. We are joined with two very influential leaders in our community, Brother God Mind Over Matter and Brother Baba God Uncle Harold Welton. And before we went on break, there was a question posed to both of our guests, and I'll ask Grasshop to reiterate it, that I think was very profound. So, God King Grasshop, can you reiterate the question you asked?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. My apologies. Last week I posed a question during our program dealing with the hidden self. We build on the power of metaphysics, and I posed a question to metaphysicians. How does some of them feel about pretty much the RBG, the revolutionary movement? Even though we're supposed to talk about unity, it's still some risk. Not too out of pocket, not too extravagant, but there's still a little risk going on. And I posed them the question, what do they feel about certain revolutionaries and certain RBG movements? And their question was pretty much, lay down with both sides. They're touching on their inner spirit, their inner G. So I want to ask the question to the honorable guests we have right now, the revolutionaries, RBGs, which I'm a part of as well. What do you say to a person, I'm not going to say ignorant, that might not understand something as it pertains to metaphysics, meaning beyond the physical? And I've heard certain individuals make mockery of that. Spookism is a bunch of BS. You're just scared of the white people, you know what I mean? And it seems like it's keeping this division amongst us. And when you look at the First Honorable Marcus Garvey, when you look at so many others, it seemed like they were doing their due diligence to bring them all together, metaphysically, revolutionary, culturally, socially, and together, be it one. So I want to know, this from both of you guys' angles, what do you feel about that? How can we become one with the metaphysicians and the RBG, the revolutionary movement? Mind over matter. You can start off, sir.
I feel that's an excellent question, because I sat and pondered that in two different places. I pondered that in prison and understood it, and then I pondered that out here and kind of like misunderstood it. The people who talk down on and try to make it seem like it's not significant on being spiritual and the metaphysics and everything that's involved with that, I feel they just haven't reached that plateau yet of understanding the mind, the body, and the soul at one. They haven't went through that yet, because I mean, you can take the old saying, the strong rules the weak, but the smart rules them all. And you have to have a strong mind. You have to have a strong mind, because I mean, if you want to be, super gangster and use that gun, you have to have the mind to know when to use it. You have to. So as far as the people that like speak down on the spiritual aspect of it, they're not well versed yet. But also at the same time, you have a lot of people who are so-called spiritual that kind of throw to the side the physical aspect of getting physical, because sometimes you do have to get physical. We definitely have to face that. There are sometimes you can be as humble and as positive as you are. Sometimes someone will use that as an advantage, and then you have to come out of that and get physical. So every man and woman has their gauge on when they're going to finally get physical. But by no means is one side wrong and the other one right. Not at all. You need both.
Yes,
you need both. It's kind of like theory. It's kind of like theory and practice, strategy and tactics.
Right. I wanted to comment on that. I'm not sure if a lot of people are familiar, but we all, the red, black, and green that originated and was given to us by the great Baba Marcus Garvey. But one of the things Marcus Garvey was the leader and founder was in New Thought. One of the things that he taught was that the African American at home needed to gather a new thought, which was metaphysics. That was one of his main things. A lot of people represent the red, the black, the green. I'm a revolutionary. I'm this. Even if you look at Khalid Muhammad, he goes deep into the concepts of metaphysics. Me being a metaphysician and understanding the importance of realizing how you can create your own reality, I'm stuck on how people don't see that as revolution. I'm stuck on how they don't realize that is a revolutionary move. What's more important than realizing that you not only have the power to fight, but you actually have the power to create your own reality. And this is not a hocus-pocus theory. This is some serious science that the ancestors in ancient Kemet and all throughout Africa taught. So when we ignore that part of us, we're just like dummies out there letting rocks get thrown at us and not realizing, hey, I have the ability to manifest things. And I'm not knocking movements like protesting or Martin Luther King or any of the movements that have happened. I feel like everybody has played their part from where they stood. I feel like everybody did what they could do from where they were and how they understood it. But when we talk about the future of the revolution, learning these spiritual principles, especially for someone like in my generation, like with the situations being as they are, learning these spiritual principles, learning how to tap into a higher consciousness and a higher knowing and actually manifesting your reality through that, I think that's revolution. I feel like that is, like we talked to, who was it, Baba Phil Valentine, and he broke down revolution is evolution. It's to evolve, And so everyone has their different theories on what a revolution is. But for me, as far as the future revolution, it's going to be a revolution of the mind. Right now, we don't realize that because we're dealing with mental slavery right now. A lot of people have houses. A lot of people have money. A lot of black people have money. A lot of black people are living in big houses and driving cars. Not everyone's broke and poor, but a lot of them, even with all of that, are still under mental slavery. So we're still not understanding that it's got to be a revolution of the mind also. We have to change the way we think. And I just want to say something real quick before we go into the next, before Uncle Harold goes on and we go to the next thing. And I know this is probably going to be like really shocking for a lot of people. One of the things that I honestly feel when you add metaphysics to the revolution is, and forgive me, those who are really connected to this word, but I know one of our words in the revolution is struggle. And I know our great Baba, Kwame Ture, that was one of his, the struggle must continue. But I just suggest, as a suggestion, what would it have been like if we would have said our progress continues or our success continues? That's just a suggestion. That's just an idea, because understanding the principles of metaphysics, what we speak about, we bring about. What we confirm and affirm, we will live. We will have that happen in our lives. So I'm just suggesting, what would it have been like if we would have said our progress or our success continues? And that's adding metaphysics to the revolution. But before we go on, I do believe we have another caller.
Yeah, Uncle Harold, hold your point of thought, because I would like you to respond on that and on the question that I posed to you. But we're going to take this caller. Caller with the last four digits, 0353. Welcome to Superconscious Outlet.
Still getting over how everything was messing up on me.
Hello?
So when you start getting it together, you get like this, and you don't want to see nothing. Yeah, because I want to finish.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, they there. They probably just set the phone down.
They'll call back. Uncle Harold Welton, I know we gave you a lot to expound on. However you want to take it. The question I asked up front, or you going to piggyback on what Queen Goddess Koshana Quayle expounded on about the term struggle. Can we add a uplifting or more of an advanced word as far as our progression in this movement toward liberation, freedom, and success? Your floor, Uncle.
In solidarity with all, yes. If it's going to inspire us to educate, organize, and agitate, and have us ready for revolution, I have no problems with it. Kwame Ture, Stokely Carmichael said all religions came looking for justice, asking for justice, talking about justice. The great John Coltrane, who I feel was one of the greatest masters of sound, he wrote a tune called Love Supreme. For years I always thought it was like Christian-based. But actually it was based on the theory that in sound, specifically music, no matter what key or mode you play a melody in, if you play it in A flat, B flat, whatever, it's going to be the same. You're going to be talking about a love supreme, a love supreme, a love supreme. So my point is, if it inspires us to educate, to organize, to agitate for oppressed people to rise up and throw off the yoke of oppression, and I have no problems with it. We need to unify. We have been fragmented so much for so many years. Malcolm said, I'm ready for any faith, and I'm paraphrasing, I'm ready for any faith that has, not revolution, but unity on their minds. And so for me to sit up and tell somebody that, that's metaphysics, I don't want to organize. They're talking about let's go out and organize, let's get organized, let's get ready for the revolution, then I'm all for it. And just to be taking it another step forward, I don't have any problems with people that don't believe in anything, so-called atheists. If morally sound people, if they're ready for revolution, let's go.
Ashe.
Yeah, that's deep. I like what both you gentlemen expounded on as far as, unity based. And that's the moral for me and so many others when we got into this movement. Before I was in this movement, I was buried under ignorance of self-hatred to an extent. And when I got introduced and awakened to this way of life, with my council of elders, with my divine brothers, with my queen, Koshana Quayle, I really am not just trying, but I will make a strong attempt to help to unite with my brother or sisters, regardless of their ideological and even political structure when it comes to their basis. Like you said, Uncle Harold, like you said, Brother Mondo Man, like you said, Koshana Quayle. The key is, though, for me, if we can agree on something, let's roll with that. Far too often with us as African people or black people, that's another thing that we could talk about in a future show, what you call ourselves. But so often with us that when we don't get along or we disagree with a certain topic, we can't be comrades with each other. We can't be friends with each other. And that is really self-defeating in the psychosis of the minds of our people that have a separatist, scattered mentality. So our contingent, being revolutionaries, whether developing, whether metaphysical, whether cultural, whether black nationalist, Pan-Africanist, the main sound of being a true revolutionary is to uplift the people, is to enhance the people, is to build with the people. If the person's hurting, you don't criticize them. If you know they have some defects mentally, physically, spiritually, you don't try to embarrass them or expose it. But that's not what a revolutionary is. The great Kwame Ture. So find the teaching that a revolutionary, whether feminine or masculine, is to help to convert the unrevolutionary, unconscious, to become revolution, to become conscious, regardless of your, once again, spiritual, mental, or physical, political astuteness, where it may lie. Revolutionary covers all those faculties and intangibles, and that's what I posed the question, and you brothers answered it, and sister answered it with flying colors, and I salute you all. Ashe.
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 Thank you. I have a question too. Baba God, Harold Wilson, what are some of the things as far as action? Because I am solution-oriented, I am action-based. I do believe in becoming active and proactive. What are some of the things, because I hear about programs like Feed the People programs, and, I've heard things like WIC, women, infant, and children, food care, and all the things that we have now were inspired and sponsored through what Black Panthers were doing when they were feeding the women and children in their neighborhoods. What are some of the proactive things that my generation can do right now in our community? What kind of things do you suggest that we can do right now in our community other than just be on Facebook? Because I do think Facebook is an amazing tool for people, but at the same time we have so many things as far as CIA, FBI, all these different things you hear about with Facebook. What are some things that will take us out of our living room but onto the street that are proactive that we could be doing in our community? Yeah, the question is for both of you guys. No, you can go first, Uncle Harold, because I know you know from your generation, what kind of things could we bring from what you've experienced into this time period and really become proactive with?
Well, the Free Breakfast Program was a great tool, and I hate to use the word tool, but it was a great tool to organize and build bases of operations in our communities. Not only were we feeding children, we were also able to organize the parents around the program. Door to door, day to day, we were talking to the parents of the children that were involved in the Free Breakfast Program. My particular Free Breakfast Program was on a street called Layton Street in Vermont. Actually, it's 39th Street. I was also involved in the Alprentice Bunchy Carter Free Clinic. And on Saturdays, we would do the free clinic work. We would go into the community, recruit the people, come to the clinic. It's free. We have doctors, actual doctors, who volunteers their services to the clinic. And we would also go out in the community, door to door, talking about the program and what the program was about. And we would also go to other neighborhoods, pardon my expression, but black folks that had money on the west side, don't jump all over me, callers, that had money on the west side would go on the west side and collect donations for the clinic. So I think that these programs, Grasshopper and I are involved in the Marcus Garvey Feed the People program. I feel that, we should be able to not only feed the people, but have information and educate the people. Grasshopper told me one day, let's go out in the field. Well, that took me back into the day, that's what we talked about, going in the field, going out into the surrounding community and not just talking about the program, but talking about things that affect our people in our communities: police terror, poverty, joblessness, drugs, undeclared civil wars, fratricide, things that we can see directly. We need to be out there talking to the masses, the people, about that. You see, in the community that 3 of my grandkids live in, and I don't want to say the name, but they're going at it right now, and they're beefing. And so what I do on my grandson, granddaughters, and block is, I take the brothers and sisters aside. Look, this is what we got to do. This is what we did in the past. These neighborhoods where you guys are doing this, we used to be out there organizing. We used to be out there with the free clinic. We used to be out there with the breakfast program. You see,
right.
The only guns that were pointed was and I'm not trying to get militaristic, but the only guns that were pointed were in the directions that those that wore green and brown and black.
Right.
Feel me? So.
Right.
We need to use these programs to organize. When we're at Crest, right? I always think about people walking back and forth on that street when we're in the building. We need to have those people in the building with us, or we need to be outside of the building.
I agree with that. That is amazing, because I really think that is something that we can really do. Because a lot of times we come with these solutions, and I'm not knocking anyone's solution at all, but there's so many steps it takes to, we want our own land. We want, to have certain things, but we haven't gotten to the level to where we can do the things that are very available to us right now, like going next door and talking to somebody, So I think that's deep. Mind over matter, did you want to chime in on that?
I agree. I agree totally with the brother Harold. I would like to add to it that I think as individuals, maybe even someone listening to the show, I guess it might can seem like intimidating or I ain't ready for this revolutionary stuff, but people need to realize that we in a crisis right now. We in a severe crisis right now, and we have this social network where we can actually do some good with it. You know what I mean? We can actually do some good with it, and it doesn't have to be, and it won't start out on a profound, major level. Nothing, believe me, we so dumbed down right now, ain't nothing going to jump right out there and tomorrow everybody's straight. That guarantee you that would not happen. It'll happen in Hollywood, but it'll never happen on these social networks, nor in real life in the struggle. It won't happen. So what we can do as individuals, you can just make sure that you are on your own personal square and you on your dean. That's how things get rolling. What I mean by that is that if you are one individual, male or female, ignorant or conscious, on Facebook, and you have some people who are talking something other than the regular jibber jabber. We all know the difference between what's jibber jabber and somebody who's actually preaching or teaching you something. What you can do as an individual to jump in the game of this struggle is get on your dean. And you get on your dean by, number one, acknowledging what you put in your ears and what you allow your eyes to see. Because a lot of people use your ears as garbage hands. They'll dump some garbage in your ear and you'll just take it in as the norm. No, it's not the norm. You have to be a revolutionary of yourself and sit back and say, you know what, today is going to be the day that I change what I allow my eyes to focus on and what I allow my ears to hear. And I would suggest one of the first things is what you put in your mind from the moment you wake up. That's where it starts at. From the moment you wake up and you gain consciousness of your surroundings and what's going on, Be careful what you put in your mind. After that, what you put in your stomach. It's like it's a whole transition that we need to go through. That we just think, hollering "fuck the white man" and all this and that. That's how you gonna fight a battle when you ain't even eating right. A lot of people overlook eating right. Eating is a. I couldn't wait to leave prison. The way they serve you up in there with that food and all that, and the unhealthiness of it, and then you always wonder if they put things in it because that's the easiest way to run experiments on a large group of people. You can put things in the Kool-Aid, you can put things in our meat up in there, and I believe they did certain things where some men come out a little effeminate and different things like that. But as an individual, you have to be on your square and on your ding to know what you're putting into your body, what you're putting into your mind, and then just on a small basis. You can have 5 Facebook friends that you can call up and say, look, let's meet at this park on this Saturday. We're going to bring the grill, and we're going to sit around and we're going to talk. That's what starts community. That starts a community right there. And then more people get added to it. Then the next thing you know, y'all paying each other's dues. There's money allotted for charcoal and different things. Then it gets bigger and bigger, and then that's how we start. But it's like people seem to think that it's a monumental task and everything. Man, remember, them brothers was organizing without Facebook, email, Instagram, none of that. It was by word of mouth and a reputable person, ears, listening to the story and going back and repeating what they heard, the orders that they heard. We had to rely on that. Can you imagine relying on that today? You got people now that can't even remember phone numbers. I'm one of them. I only know my phone number for my cell phone. I only know one number, my phone number. If I lose my cell phone right now, I don't know my mama number. I don't know nobody's number. I'm going to keep it all the way clean. I don't know nobody's number but my own, which is ridiculous. How you going to call yourself?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So we have to really recognize that these tools, we can actually use them and flip them for what they're supposed to be used for, and that's what some of us are doing. We're going to have this. It's going to be a big event in Fort Worth, Texas, on August 22nd through the 24th, RBG Family Day weekend. You can bring your kids down there, and everyone is welcome. Everyone, it's all black. It's definitely all black, but all of the whatever you believe is your religion, everybody's welcome because it's a black family weekend. And there's so many events they're going to have down. They're going to have a hair show. They're going to have they're going to talk about the school that's down there. Just a whole bunch of things. And this will be the first largest gathering of people on social media. And it just so happened that it's us, all us being black, and that's a monumental thing right there, because this is going to lead people to actually get a chance to meet and greet your Facebook friends, and then people are going to leave with actual phone numbers and addresses, so you can really connect because. This ain't going to last forever. That grid going to get shut down. Everybody going to get that block thing on Facebook, or they might just dissolve of it. Then you're not going to have any of your so-called friends' phone numbers and addresses, so they wasn't really your friends. You got to get them solid contacts and talk with people like on a serious basis because that communal living, I think is coming. I want it to come. I don't like living like this. I believe I had to do 18 years in prison to get out here and then have to work to pay DWP, to pay Boost Mobile, and then, be happy on the weekend, turn up. No, I don't like that. I don't like that.
Right. That's deep. That's deep that you were saying that actually building some type of real camaraderie with our friends that we consider our friends on Facebook and actually getting to meet them and know them because, although Facebook is an amazing tool if you know how to use it, just like a hammer, you can't use a hammer as a screw. You got to know how to use the tool.
Right.
And so Facebook could be used. I mean, I don't think the people who created Facebook had any idea that we were going to use it for what we're using it for.
No.
Because for me, when I went through my awakening, about 10 years ago, and it was MySpace. At the time, we were all on MySpace. And if it wasn't for MySpace being available and me being able to reach out to people who were also going through the awakening, because no one around me close and any close to me was experiencing what I was experiencing. No one was going through it. So I got on MySpace, and that's how I found out that I wasn't losing my mind. That it was actually an awakening. And so and Facebook is being used that same way. A lot of people, if you're looking for it, if you're actually looking for information, I find out so much stuff on Facebook that I'm like, wow, I never knew that, and so it's just about how you use it, how you use that tool, and you are so 100% correct on actually meeting these people and getting to know them. So we need to get past that computer screen.
Yeah, and not being scared.
Right, and you're right, and not being scared.
Yes. Let the people know that myself, I have yet to meet the brother Harold. I just met the brother today, so y'all don't think all this is fixed. I just met the brother today verbally over the phone, but I have met Koshana and Grasshop in person.
You sure did.
At a couple of different functions. So this is how this works, people. It's not just sitting on there and hitting like and agreeing all day or disagreeing or beefing up on there. You can't be shy and hide behind that keyboard, man. You got to get from behind that keyboard and actually, you don't know what you're missing out on. You're missing out on some good lessons and meeting some good people.
Yeah, I agree.
Indeed, wonderful. We have a caller on. Who would like to take this caller? Caller with the last four digits, 5497. Welcome to Superconscious Outlet. You live.
Yes, this is this is Brother Al Tariq calling, and I'm from out of Alabama.
Peace.
Peace.
How you doing,
I'm all right. And I was invited actually tonight by Mind Over Matter. He's originally from my hometown, but he's, far away from it now. And this would be the first time he ever heard my voice. But we came up in Plainfield, New Jersey, as far as our childhoods and stuff. So we had that in common. The one thing about it that John, I like all the points that y'all have made, and sometimes it's even depending on your location, and the demographics of people that you even live around. Because like where I'm at, my head be like spinning because it's like the Twilight Zone around here where I'm at, and it's not a lot of consciousness really here too much at all. And I speak to people, I tell them things, but it's like they're stuck in like that bow head type mentality here still. Nobody really is galvanizing to try to make moves like that. People are very shook here. And I said, man, it's rough where I came from. I said, but when certain things went down, we would stand up, stuff like that. And I said, go on here, people turn their head. They'd come outside the spot if you got into an argument or something like that with somebody. But when the police come and they see that they're in the wrong, they won't even come out the window. They may hear you out there. They act like they're so scared they won't even look out the window through the blinds. I just love what y'all are doing, and I'm really seriously considering that I may have to move from it. I've been here for now like 16, 17 years, from up north. And it's just real rough living in an area where they're hostile to consciousness of any kind, and the area is very rough. It's a real country style place, and I say they worked over on all our people to a degree.
Right.
But here's like triple times of what it was. The families don't really, they're here. So many people are related in kinship, but as far as how they act, it's not necessarily that way. This is the first place I've ever been to in my life where people say, oh, this is supposed to be my cousin. I'm supposed to be married.
Wow.
These are the things I was hearing when I came down here. I was like, huh? And I mean, it's like a culture shock, and I'm like, I'm going to have to make some moves because I'm used to this. That's how I was raised up with the consciousness stuff, because I had uncles who was like in part of the first resurrection of the nation and stuff like that. So I was brought up under those teachings. I wasn't an actual member, but that's all I knew. I didn't go to the church. I went to the mosque on Sundays and sometimes on study times and learned about history, learned about things about Africa and different things like that. So it's been kind of rough for me being in an area that's really hostile to anything, let alone, because some people practice Islam and others. But my thing is this, and I've always had this in my heart, let alone religions. love. Love is my religion. So if I can love my people in a proper manner, that's all the religion I need. And I've always had a passion for my people. I always will to the day that I go back to the essence. But the thing is, it's just so hard when you don't have people who thinking like that and who don't see the seriousness of the times in which we live. And it's a sad thing. And I say, well, things is doubtable, in scripture and stuff. But I say, well, if it could have been Jesus and it said he wept, I see why he wept. Because dealing with your people, a lot of times, it'll make you want to cry because you see the misery that they're in.
Why have thou forsaken me?
Yeah, brother.
But I commend y'all.
Uncle Harold, my fault. Somebody was talking?
I commend y'all for what y'all are doing and just keep the spirit going. And I'm going to have to do something myself because I was just thinking about that earlier today, just sitting thinking. And I said, man, I need to be around brothers and sisters who's trying to strive and really have that self-love, because it's tough in the area where I'm at. So I feel as that y'all are blessed, where y'all are at and do what the elder was saying and get out here and push forward, make these moves. It is time for revolution. It's been time. And we have to keep pushing. It's always time for that because that's elevating ourselves. Revolution elevates us. And we have to keep pushing forward for the elevation of ours and our future, our children. And we must teach them this. If we can't get grown-up people, which any movement that was really strong, the younger people were the one to really pick up the baton anyway. So if we can't get the ones that's older, the children, and they care for their children, they'll start latching on to the kids the same as when Malcolm and Martin and them was making their moves. The same as when Garvey was on the scene. So when we start getting the kids to move, the grown-ups, believe me, they will move too.
Right. That's real. Hey, Uncle Harold Wilson, he brought up some good points. And does how effective and efficient the one's revolutionary growth and success is it dependent upon one's demographic, where one stays, or can an aspiring revolutionary raise above those so-called insurmountable odds of one's demographic? What do you say to that, Uncle Harold Wilson?
I think that is a tactical question that demographics, where one lives. But I look at the struggles of Amilcar Cabral again, Estanio Nido in Angola. They picked a base of operation, a central point where you had essentially the most oppression. They organized in that part of their countries. You see, they consolidated their gains. They consolidated that organizing. They unified those areas. And then they moved on. They moved on to other areas. They sent out cadres to organize in other parts of the country. You see, like Brother Mind Over Matter said, it's not going to happen tomorrow. This is going to be a long, hard struggle. Now, some people will say, well, we've been struggling for a long time. Well, let me put it this way. My grandfather, I'm 64 years old, but my grandfather was born in 1887. Therefore, he was 22 years out of slavery, physical slavery. Physical slavery hasn't been gone that long in the scheme of things. Our ancestors, the great Ma'at, our ancestors were enslaved physically for 488 years. If you look at Brazil not outlawing physical slavery until 1880-something. So it's going to be a long, hard struggle, and patience is virtue in this situation. We are going to get frustrated, but we can't allow that to discourage us. We got to keep struggling. We got to keep moving. We can do it. Kwame Ture suffered with cancer all through his body, Stokely Carmichael, but he was still out there struggling. He was still out there talking about ready for revolution. So we can't get discouraged. We're going to have people that are not going to want to struggle. you know, and we can't make them struggle. We have to keep moving. We have to keep organizing. We have to do what we have to do to keep people focused on revolution, liberation. I wanted to say something that Grasshopper talks about all the time. Grasshopper talks about you got to start in your home. And the caller talked about starting in your home. Essentially, we got to start in our home with our kids, with our family. They have to know struggle. They have to know what revolution and liberation is about. And then we move from there. Because if they ain't ready, if they're not on board, how can we expect others to be on board? You see, my neighbors know that this is the issues that we face in the community. You know, I talk to them. You know, and not in a way that I'm getting on their nerves. You know, they know that this is what he is about. You see, so we have to start in the home, and then let's go to the neighbor and talk to the neighbors.
Right.
I say, man, that's awesome. You brought that up, that the revolutionary starts in the home, and as you know, before I got introduced to fatherhood, man, I was out there really feet to the ground, man. I still am, but you know, I live like 75 miles away from where I was raised, and, you know, I'm not able to be out there. And some may be under the impression I'm not really putting in the work. That's so far from the truth, because I'm being a revolutionary here in my household, teaching my daughters, teaching my babies the real essentials of righteousness, justice, and just being a person of goodwill and of good decency. And when you carry all those intangibles, all those attributes, you're on your way to being a great revolutionary, because once again, the revolutionary starts from when you look at the revolutionary in the mirror. And once you make a change for the betterment inward, then the external revolution, I truly am convinced, will take care of itself. Question for Mind Over Matter, and you can chime in on this too, though. Back in the day, well, I can't say back in the day, I was watching this interview with, I forgot the dude's name, Brother J. Allen hit me to this jockey. He was interviewing Kanye West. I forgot his name. And he was talking about Kanye West, a couple of controversial videos he was making. And Kanye West he was under the impression that Kanye West was a revolutionary. You know what I mean? Trying to follow the steps of, the Dead Prez, you know, certain revolutionary MCs. And he was kind of going in on Kanye West real tough because, you know, Kanye West, I guess he had the clothing line where he had $150 T-shirts. It was, you know, kind of crazy, right?
Yeah.
So he brought up a good question. He was like, revolutionaries, what he said, was not supposed to be in corporate suites. They was not supposed to be pretty much balling, you know. And I want to ask you, and you could also chime in on this as well, Uncle Harold Welton, if we want the youngsters to really be a part of this movement righteously, and not saying that money is the root to, not saying that money is the epitome of freedom or success, but we're going to need some type of income. We're going to need some type of money. And I would like to know, on your take, how do you see revolutionaries, can they be wealthy? Can a revolutionary be a straight-up baller, riding around in the Benz or whatever? Can they be a baller? Can a revolutionary, African-centered revolutionary, let's put it like that, African-centered revolutionary, can he be a baller? Or her, can she be a baller? Take it over, Mind Over Matter.
I believe one can, because it's all in the mind of whatever you're trying to push. I believe a multi-millionaire can be a revolutionary. It's just it depends on his actions. Because one thing I have noticed is that a lot of people say, well, he got money, or he can't be. We don't have no history. We don't have no inherent history of being poor and not having nothing. That's definitely not in no African's history. That's not in no humans who actually seen big old diamonds on the beach and stepped over them like they was nothing. Then you get this idiot come over here and raise them to the sun like, oh my God, this is a diamond. You know, we don't come from that. We've always had wealth. We've always spiritual wealth, physical, all that. Come on now. We know what's going on with that. It just got twisted now as to where when this being put this paper money out there and then got us all worshiping that. You know, one of the lines that I use from a brother I learned named the Master Articulator, he said, quit being a slave to an artificial man in an artificial reality. And when that's broken down, you're a slave to an artificial man, which is you know who, in an artificial reality. Because this is all artificial reality right here. None of this stuff is real. If people don't know money is not real, you got to be crazy. Money is not real. You can go almost 4 or 5 months swiping your debit card and never touching the actual money and getting all your bills and stuff paid. That's only off of numbers on the computer and the idea of what you have in the bank. You know what I mean? And there's people who capitalizing off of that know how to mix the numbers in and everything. So money is not real. But the reason why a lot of these youngsters and grown-ups attach themselves to the idea of money and you can't because you can't really approach a lot of these youngsters unless you have that flashy type of gear in the car and all that, because they're so wrapped up in that. And as far as Kanye's personal reason, I remember reading Magic Johnson's book, how he thought. Magic Johnson is he's I don't want to say he's a revolutionary, but he has tried to do some things when you go deep into his character and read about him, because he's put a lot of game in his business books. He sure have. And he stated in one of his books how he started off with this small store, but he realized too late in the game that his prices was too high. He said he wanted to get the leather coats in there and trench coats and the 3/4 coats, but he said he didn't realize his prices was out the range of his people. So he suffered a loss on that. And a lot of people also don't know that Magic Johnson was the first one who came up with the if you remember the baseball caps that had the large signs on, like the large football teams or basketball teams. He came up with that. He has a patent for that. And what's more, a lot of people don't realize that Magic Johnson had got the rights to Michael Jordan's jersey. I couldn't believe that. When I read about it, that's how smart. Yeah, Magic Johnson, he was a monster on that business. Magic Johnson said he tried to get at all the other Lakers and say, look, let's take these business, let's learn this business. They all pushing to the side. They was out buying their Benzes and Rolls Royce and all that. That's why now they ain't got nothing. You got Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. He'll do anything for $1 now. Why Magic's still pushing strong, because he had that business mentality. But you can definitely have money and be a revolutionary. It's just time for you to pull your revolutionary stunt. Me personally, speaking on this, when I left prison, I was fortunate enough to run into a producer who wanted to do the first reality show on prisoners getting out, being on parole. And I was paid for that. And me, fresh out of prison, I was paid $500 a day just to have people follow me around. I had a small crew and everything. I posted a video on my page. It's called Life at the Prison. I was going to be the first positive black man on TV pushing being released on parole and doing everything right. The lady who did my project, she lost her steam behind it, and she didn't want to push it no more. But I was offered money to do things that I know for a fact I didn't do in prison. They came to my house one day, and I loved it because it's nothing like being handed a check early in the morning on the clipboard, and it's yours, and they pay for everything. They pay for my lunch, breakfast, dinner. They pay for my clothes. They pay for everything. I was getting paid. Fresh out of prison, getting paid $500 a day, do nothing. I loved it. But when they came to me and asked me, okay, in this scene, we want you to bounce this basketball and act like you're shooting dice, I know for a fact I didn't do that. And I got friends on Facebook who I've been locked up with, and have ex-cellies that are my friends on Facebook. They know damn well they ain't never seen me bounce a basketball in prison or shoot no dice. So I damn sure wasn't going to get on there and coon and buck for that. And that's another reason why I go so hard on the coons and bucks on Facebook, because I was in a position where I could have did that for money, and I chose not to do it because I know where my soul and my character lies at. But my plan was to, get this money $500 a day and get this money and get big, and then just, pull that mask off and really let them know who I am and what black men can do if you just give them a chance. If you don't stigmatize them with that, he's an ex-con and all this and that. And I do have a chip on my shoulder behind that, because when I first paroled and I seen how a lot of the ones that came before me were supposed to be illiterate and opportunists and really no goals, that kind of got to me, because I'm far from that. I'm far from that. I'm almost, I've been out 4 years now, and I've been pushing so strong as well. I've had so many different jobs and so many different opportunities, and, was blessed with a good woman. Man, it's definitely still a chip on my shoulder, because I'm not one of the ones who left up out there from playing checkers and chess for 18 years. I was really in there pushing the same thing that I'm pushing now.
Amazing.
I say. Yeah, we're going to take this last caller. We got like 10 minutes left. Caller with the last 4 digits, 1450. Welcome to Super Conscious Outlet.
Hey, what's up, y'all? How y'all doing?
What's going on?
Peace, Brother Jay.
Jay out in the house.
Jay Allen, what's going on?
I got a question for everybody on the panel. I wanted to know you guys' opinion on this. I'm trying to find out, like, do you guys ever think the day will come where us as black folk be able to work on one accord, regardless of what we are, Christian, Muslim, conscious, whatever, just work together on the strength of being black?
Can I answer that real quick?
Yes,
I want to go first, and then everyone else can go. I think, and this is the thing that's happening. I'm always metaphysical and spiritual and everything. So until we do, we're going to always have something happening to us that's going to cause us to figure that out. Until we do, now a lot of people will say, there's never been a unified people. African people weren't unified in Africa. What happens is unity comes when a problem happens and we all agree on that solution, or we all see that problem as detrimental to ourselves. So if we don't do it on our own, I honestly believe something will happen. And I don't know, I would hate to project any real horrible negative future, but something will trigger that to where we finally get that. Where we finally realize, oh, wait, it's not about you being, it's just like when an earthquake happens. You no longer are a fire. You're no longer going, oh, but that's a Christian. I can't save them. You know what I mean? Oh, you save a dog. You saving everything that you see so that they won't burn down. So sometimes and I really hate to project that, but I think something will happen where we have to unify and come together. Just like with the riots and things like that, but certain things will trigger it, and that's just the way our universe works, because that is what it's calling for. And we've had so many experiences that have happened in our past to where we haven't figured that out yet. We're going to have to experience some more things until we figure that out.
Well said. Uncle Harold, the mind of matter, you want to take it?
Harold, want to go first?
Yes, sir. Well, I think conditions are going to be getting worse. Hunger, homelessness, medical care, education, poverty. I think that going to dictate that we're going to have to make a move, and when we make our move, we're going to have to be under the auspices of a revolutionary party to direct that energy in an organized way, in an educated way, in an inspired way. I look at the Rodney King revolt of '92. There was a lot of energy out there, a lot of rebellion out there, but there was no revolutionary organization, a revolutionary party to channel that organization. Even though Crips and Bloods united, during that period, there was no organization like the Black Panther Party to come along and say, well, let's take that energy and let's organize. Let's turn this energy into being out in the community day to day with a new type of mindset as opposed to fratricide and reactionary tribalism. So we need that revolutionary party to channel that energy, because things are going to get worse. And I just want to say one thing real quick. Donald Sterling fiasco. My thoughts on that, I didn't care about what he said. That didn't bother me. I mean, we know what they talk about. But what it did was clarify the fact that you got a plantation, highly paid plantation situation. So, NBA, NFL, just imagine if the NBA and the NFL players, black players, or whoever else that might join, said, you know what, we're not going to play the championship game. I know this is asking for a lot. We're not going to play the championship game. We're not going to do the Super Bowl until we receive reparations for our people. And I'm not just talking about money. I'm talking about education. I'm talking about college. I'm talking about serious job training. If that were to happen, do you think that these billionaires are not going to respond to that? So, I mean, that's in relationship to these ballers, these NBA players, and I'm not hating on them. I'm just saying, my thoughts were, the ballers started talking, basketball players, NBA players started talking, NFL players started talking about, you know what, we want reparations. We're not going to go play, boss. It ain't going to happen. All will know, not only are we talking about a rebellion on the ship, we're talking about billions and billions of dollars being lost. That's revolutionary to me.
Right.
Right.
I personally think that it can happen, Brother Jay, because I see how hard you push. I see Koshana. I see Grasshop, Brother Harold, and many more that's on Facebook. I know we're not going to stop. We're not going to stop pushing. And if the so-called ignorant, illiterate gang members gather and push, I'm sure that in prison, the gang members get together when there's a riot. They come together. So, hello.
We can hear you, Uncle Harold. We can hear you. Can you hear us?
Yeah. So I would say it's gonna happen. We gonna be the ones that make it happen. All of us, all the people on Facebook and off of Facebook that's doing some of the communities and that believe in what they're doing and already know in their heart they're not gonna stop till they fall out. We the ones gonna make it happen.
Right.
I
say what y'all said it all. So I'm just gonna marinate and soak in all that great, profound information. So we got about 5 minutes left. Let me go on and make some announcements for our brothers and sisters shows here on Blog Talk Radio. Family and friends, tomorrow night, 7 p.m., that's Pacific Standard Time, we have the show called Let's Talk About It. I do believe they're going to be discussing deprogramming dangerous children games. So definitely, if you got children that's really into the internet, they know how to hack and everything, or even with the PS4s and all that stuff, this might be good for you to tune in and your children to tune in to the program tomorrow. Let's talk about it. You can tune in by calling area code 646-787-8180, or you can visit www.blogtalkradio.com/Universal Radio 2. The host of this esteemed program are Zemariah Davis and Tiffany L. Gibson. That's tomorrow, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Then on Monday, the Pivotal Show, the Jay Allen Show, they're going to be discussing another very touching and very important topic, black-on-black violence. Start time is 7 p.m., once again, Pacific Standard Time. You can call in, the same number, 646-787-8180, or you can visit us via Blog Talk, www.blogtalkradio.com/Universal Radio number 2. The host of that show is J. Allen Greer and Living in Harmony. Check that show out. Then they got Tuesday. The show is called The Getting It In Show. And this show is an interesting show. Assuming every brother is on the down low. The host is Liz Rebecca, and I do believe Nazir Shahid, I do believe, is the co-host. I'm not sure. But anyway, you can call in at 347-857-1166. Start time is 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And that's all I got right now for the program. So definitely tune in and enlighten your minds, and it will prick your understanding. And don't forget next Saturday, Super Conscious Outlet, start time 5 p.m., 5 to 7 p.m. The time, call in at 646-787-8180, or you can visit us via website at www.blogtalkradio.com/Universal Radio 2. Once again, the start time is 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and we're going to have a very enlightening show. There will be the God Particle and by the brother Nazir Alim Bey. That's going to be next Saturday, so definitely tune in for that. And brothers, I want to thank our guests for calling in. I want to thank our guests for being with us. I want to thank those for calling in who listened in. And closing remarks, mind over matter, what do you have for the listeners as far as it pertains to being a revolutionary? Mind over matter?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, what are your closing remarks as it pertains to being a revolutionary, and what would you like to expound on for the youth or whoever? You got about a minute to expound.
Man, just want to let the youth know, and the older folks to know that, man, we the generation that got to change this. It's complex, but at the same time it's easy because we have this communication. Let's put it to use. And out of all these different challenges you see on the social networks, these burn yourself and choke yourself, man, how about one videotaping yourself buying black? going into a black establishment and showing some black currency exchanging hands. I would love to see that.
Well said. Uncle Harold Wilson, if you can, let me talk about George Jackson. Can you give those who are listening like 3 books on revolutionary theology, revolutionary heritage, revolutionary history? Can you give us 3 books and some closing remarks as well? Gotta wrap it up.
Blood Mine, Autobiography of Malcolm X, and Black Capitalism in America by Robert Allen. And I just want to say, like Kwame Ture used to say,
keep close now.
Got to have Stokely Carmichael, we got to have undying love for our people, even when we sleep. We wake up. God has to be on our mind. We have to have that undying love and patience for our people and believe it.
Ashe, well said.
Thank you, brothers, for joining us this evening. I want us to, before we go, just touch on what do you guys think the future of the revolution should be? What is our future? Do you see a future? What do you think that we can leave with our future generation, the children that are coming up behind us? What can we pass on to them that they could carry on to their children? Uncle Harold, do you see a future?
I see that we have to lead our children by example. I believe that we have to do and say things to our children and mean it and practice it.
Ashe. Brother God, mind over matter?
Sister, I didn't hear you. Can you repeat that?
What do you think we could leave to the future revolutionaries? What can we leave our children?
Let's leave them. Let's leave them the evidence that we at least tried. That we at least tried to do something. You know, even if we don't make it, even if we don't live up to what the Panthers left for us, they left a whole lot for us. They left the blueprint, but let's at least leave the residue that we at least tried. That way we can have a little bit of closure and say that, you know, at least we tried. Because right now, it ain't looking too good.
Ashe. Well, thank you both for joining us for another amazing Saturday with the Super Conscious Outlet. I appreciate both of your thoughts and wisdom you dropped on the show today. Our future does belong to our children, but we are the present moment, so the revolution must continue not only on the streets but in our homes. I love you, family. Everyone tune in next weekend, and the Super Conscious Outlet is out. Peace.
Peace.